Thanks for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you, Melissa.
What do you make of these tariffs right now and the ultimate impact to the U.S. economy and trade?
Well, I would say, like most people, this was stronger than what many of us expected. But it's the opening step. So I would assume that this will not be in place in a month, 2 months, definitely not in the back half of the year. So I'm in the camp that this is the beginning of a big negotiation. I would put these tariffs in 4 groups. Number 1 is automobiles. And really that comes down to Mexico, Canada, and Germany. Korea and Japan don't charge tariffs for automobiles anymore. So Mexico and Canada will most likely be addressed with the USMCA agreement. That's scheduled for 26, but that will be brought forward, hopefully in the next month or 2. And that the autos will be folded into that discussion. Germany, it's about, they charge us 10%. We charge them 2.5%. That could be fixed. And it's not only about bringing production back, but it's also about market access. So if Germany brings down their tariffs, then that gives U.S. companies more access to the German market. The second group are these reciprocal tariffs. And this is all about negotiation. So we're going to be hearing about tariffs for quite a while now. And the president has set the stage for what he loves to do. He'll be negotiating every single day for the foreseeable future, which each one of these countries. It's interesting as we think about, is this designed for negotiation or are these permanent? Vietnam yesterday reduced their tariff regime considerably, but the president didn't mention it. And he still included Vietnam with some very steep tariffs. So that tells me that he will use what Vietnam is already intending to do to name as a victory. And the president will be looking for victories. And with this number of countries, I believe he will have a slew of victories that he can point to. The third group is the 10% from all countries. And that's an interesting one. I wouldn't discard that as being a move just to prevent supply chains from moving. And that's an interesting one. We can return to that. The fourth one I would put is China. I wouldn't lump China into these other groups. China is a group on its own. China will require a very special negotiation. It will not be a phone call to talk about autos. That will be something more important, more consequential, and that's hard to predict. It could be a trade deal or it could be something a lot bigger. But definitely bigger than I thought, but each one has a piece, each one has a solution. I do not believe that these tariffs will be in place going into the second half of the year.
The baseline 10%, Carlos, there's no party to negotiate with on that one. It seems like that's one that could actually stick around.
That's a great point. And thing here is if President Trump is looking for a way to keep tariffs in place long term, a way to cement his legacy of tariffs, it would be by putting on, say, 10% for all imports coming into the U.S. Maybe 5, maybe 7, in this case, 10%. So that would be a way of just saying from now on, all imports will include 10% tariff coming into the U.S. And if companies want to evaluate and analyze whether they should be manufacturing in the U.S. or where they are, just do a 10-year net present value analysis, and that will tell you whether you can afford a plant. It'll be predictable. It'll be certain. So that enables companies to be able to analyze it. And it'll also be a way of guaranteeing a long-term stream of revenue for the U.S. government. So that could be an interesting one.
As you look out across the tariffs that were announced, it seems like one of the most punitive tariffs is the one on China. It's a 34%, and that's on top of the existing 20%. And so would you be concerned about those retaliatory tariffs? Because they might not even be in the form of tariffs. They could be in the form of, I don't know, seizing officials, kicking companies out of the country. I mean, there are many ways China could retaliate.
Yeah, I would expect China to respond. There's no question, but it won't be dollar for dollar. I think the Chinese will do what is in the interest of China, and they won't be as emotional about it. And so it could well be less than our tariffs, but something that will hurt us. but will not hurt them as much. And that's something that we should watch. It's interesting with China. I was just there last week, and they're a little bit confused. I thought there was more back channeling going on, but actually they're worried, they're confused. There hasn't been a lot of back channeling going on, so they're just reading what they see. And in terms of negotiating, they like the idea of Secretary Bessent, and that has gone well for them. I think they developed a relationship, but below Secretary Bessent, there's no one. So the Deputy Secretary for International Commerce, International Affairs, that is not in place. No one is there. So part of the problem here is how do you get these things started? Because it's a lot more detailed than just a phone call. But China is one to watch. I would put that in a separate camp. And as you say, I don't think it will be dollar for dollar, but it should be a big negotiation.